you cannot actually go
Yes, you are.
with a back door opened and then go and make
As well,
something
desktop audio is being
has happened. So that
streamed.
is something that's possible
Go to
in
Streamlabs.
blockchain, whereas in
Click on the mute
cryptography
button over here.
it's something that's been on. Problem. And this is mostly something on a very high level about what blockchain is. And now I could actually guess that you have some understanding of what blockchain is, but we would not get much of an idea of what exactly it is. So I will try to explain some of the terminologies that you would have come across just in from my uh, discussion with you right now. So something around something more technically speaking around the networks, what exactly are we talking about a blockchain network or a solution that you see in a blockchain. So in blockchain, it's not about I explained that in Amazon is storing its information in a central place, it's a single place, and instead of a single place where data is being stored about an asset in a distributed system where the blockchain is a distributed system, you are not talking about the data being stored at a single place, but it's actually something that's been replicated across different locations, just like the uTorrent, the torrent mechanism where you have the file partition, parts of the files being
Amazon
stored at
is
different
storing its
places.
information
In
in
the
a
same
central
way, a
place,
blockchain can
it's
be
a single
considered as a
place
distributed
and
system.
instead of a
And
single
a
place where
distributed system
data
is
is being
something that's kind of you would see like this, where you have a lot
yes,
of nodes, and in simple terms, a node is nothing
yes,
but
you
a
are.
computer system. And you would see these nodes are
As well, desktop audio is being
connected to each other, and this is
and
the way
instead of
this
a single
a
place where
distributed system
data
is
is
something
the
that's
actual
kind of
information,
you would see
meaning
like this,
if you want to
where
know
you
about
have a
something,
lot
yes,
of
it's
not
nodes,
like you would
and in
not
simple
actually get
terms,
the
a
information
node
from
is
one particular
nothing
place
but
but
a
a
computer
computer
system,
system, and
you
shared
would
from
see these
different
nodes are
places.
as well.
So that's
Desktop
around
audio is being
connected to each other.
yeah.
So
And
this is the
the
way
distributed
this
network, what
a
it work
distributed
provides.
and something like you would have come across about blockchain is you would have heard a lot of terms that's connected to blockchain, but you would not have a clear understanding of what exactly it is. So I would like to extend this to provide some clarification around some of these myths that spread across. So you would have heard about the term cryptocurrency, and there is a common definition that blockchain is something is a cryptocurrency itself. So a blockchain cannot be considered as a cryptocurrency. A famous example for the cryptocurrency is
And
Bitcoin.
some of these
But a blockchain, you cannot actually say that Bitcoin is blockchain, because Bitcoin is kind of a implementation of what blockchain is capable of, and it's just one of the implementations of blockchain. And blockchain is actually the technology behind the cryptocurrency. So when I say technology behind, I said that it's kind of an open infrastructure which has its own certain set of rules and architecture in place, where if you are following that architecture, you are getting a lot of benefits, just as I said before, how it's actually providing the benefits. And one of the other thing that you would have heard is about mining, and you would have heard that blockchain always needs miners. A miner is something as a concept that's mostly related to some of the implementations in blockchain. It's not applicable to all the implementations of blockchain, meaning like there are different variations of how you can create blockchain networks, and mining comes into picture only on a subset of those different blockchain build solutions. There are other couple of things that I would just go on quickly, and this is about like I said before, like a distributed network. You would see a lot of nodes over here, whereas there is a concept. There is a misconception that like blockchain needs a lot number of nodes to actually work, but there are different implementations where you don't need to have a lot more number of nodes. These are typically the kind of and also one thing I would like to highlight again is around like blockchain is just for finance. This is mostly considering that when you say blockchain, it's always related to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is kind of a financial solution to have like a decentralized money, blockchain is not always about a financial domain, but it's actually closely related to finance domain, but it's not always about finance domain alone. So that's mostly around the myths. And one thing I would like to highlight over here is like when you have to go in depth into the blockchain field, you would see that blockchain is not something that's purely into the technology space. A blockchain is closely related to and actually is involved with a lot of other areas, and specifically in a technology domain, it's actually involves works closely in fields like cryptography and game theory, and there are many aspects of it like are related to economics and politics and finance. So we would not go in depth into it, but the idea I want to share over here is like when you say blockchain, you cannot actually understand blockchain only from the terms of a technology viewpoint, where you cannot actually understand blockchain from what technology it is about and how it's actually doing something, how it works internally and all. That's not actually something cannot stand alone. You could have to relate it to the economics and politics and finance aspects as well. And the reason for that is whatever technology that you would have come across, if it's not trying to solve an problem that you have, it's not something that's not uh, worth developing, right? I mean, a technology comes into to solve a particular problem, and the problems that the blockchain is trying to solve is specifically mostly targeted around all these domains. And unless you know the actual problem it's trying to solve, you cannot actually understand the reason behind the different technological elements that is part of blockchain. So this is something that you would all have to understand more, because you cannot actually learn blockchain what it is in a technology side alone to actually work in a blockchain specific industry, or a solution that has to be built in blockchain. So it needs to be like you should be aware of the economical impact of it, and also some other aspects as well. And also I would like to highlight over here is like it's kind of a revolution that blockchain have put in, and in a technological field it's something that revolutionized a lot of segments and fields. For example, there is a new concept called crypto economics, which is kind of a merger of some of the different disparate segments or fields of studies like cryptography, economics, game theory, and all. So these all combine together to form a new field, which is called crypto economics. And this is kind of a hot topic these days, because this is talking about how you could actually solve some of these real world problems using blockchain in a different way that you cannot actually couldn't have solved it before with the existing technology before blockchain came into picture. So that's kind of the technological revolution blockchain brings in. And to understand more on an industrial revolution, this is mostly around the cryptocurrency industry, and this is kind of something that's been taking up, disturbing, like a lot of fields. You would actually see these days, like most of these, if you are a football fan, you would have known that most of these football teams are actually uh, um, creating NFTs. I'm not actually going in depth to these specific terms, but I'm just giving you like a link to relate to what's happening across the world in different things that are related to blockchain. So this is kind of an industry revolution that's happening because of the introduction of the cryptocurrencies and all these, because this is something that's trying to solve a particular set of problems. And we will surely next go into what exactly is blockchain trying to solve. And also it's kind of an ideological revolution that's happening, because when you say it's an ideological revolution, it's mostly around the way that I mean, it's changing the way that we used to interact with other people. And when you say interaction, mostly it's not about the human interaction in a normal way, but it's mostly around the exchange of something with an economical value. And the something here refers to as the assets. So it's about human interactions, about assets. So it's an ideological revolution, meaning it's actually removing the institutions that were coming into picture, like the banks and the political institutions as well. So it's kind of trying to eliminate, or maybe like reduce the impact of these institutions. We will in depth discuss all these in the next part. So it's also a social revolution, and you would see like in the third world countries, they are actually fighting against the inflation um, by introducing, or maybe like by trying to introduce this cryptocurrencies, or maybe like the blockchain technology as such, by adopting these into their ecosystem. So these are something that's also having a social impact, where these African countries and the third world countries are also having a huge benefit from. So that's also something that blockchain is currently providing, or maybe like impacting the whole um, worldwide. So that's also something that you have to consider. So the main point I would like to you have to take away from this topic is like, always a blockchain technology is multifaceted, meaning it's not always about technology alone. It's something that is beyond the technology, where it's trying to solve a set of problems that you cannot actually solve by certain other technological or institutional or political systems that were that are still running. So that's the kind of understanding I would like you to take away from this. And it's easy to explain a bit more in depth about this by explaining about a financial transaction. So that's why I would like to go through a scenario where if I want to send some money from my account to someone else, the normal way that I used to do is like, nowadays we have the UPI payment. So a typical flow would be like, you get the identity, or maybe like the UPI ID of the other guy, and you provide the UPI interface, you provide the ID, and you provide the value, or the amount of money that you want to transfer. And then by click of a button and like providing the pin or something, you are actually having the amount transferred from your account to someone else's account. And this is typically the user journey that you would see, and this is how it works for you as an end customer. But there are a lot of things happening in the backend, and in the backend, in the sense, this is something that's been running across for quite a long period. So what's happening here is like, you are not because you with UPI you are not actually understanding that the money that you are sending from your account may or may not be sending to a different account that's in the same bank or in a different bank. So you're not aware, or you're not bothered about all these. But in the behind the scenes, this is what happening, where if you when you have this request sent to the bank actually has a ledger with them. So the ledger is mostly a term that you always hear around the blockchain, because ledger is the term that we use to say about the distributed database that I just in a technical terms it's a distributed database, but in a finance world it's something that can be considered as a ledger. So but in a normal finance bank, considering the bank transaction, they have a ledger which is in an electronic form these days, but it's typically like a electronic version of a physical ledger a bank used to have in the early days before this technology all came in. They usually have a ledger with them, which is a kind of a book, and where they denote the transactions happening between the accounts, and that's how they record the asset value of each person. So nowadays it's not very different that's happening. The thing that's happening is kind of a computerized, or like an electronic version of the same thing, where they have this ledger been updated with that transaction, where you're saying that you are sending 100 rupees from your account to someone else. You have a debit amount like 100 rupees from your account, and the same amount is actually to be updated to someone else ledger. And it may not be the case that this other account is within your bank itself. So they have to actually send that across to the different bank, and that bank has to take care of this transaction updation and things like that, and then it will be updated back to the end customer that this transaction has happened. And this is the behind the scenes understanding of what's happening. And you would come across something always been embedded into this flow, which is the institution called bank. So I would like to highlight our one thing here is that you need something as an institution called bank to send money from your account or from the asset that you own to someone else. And the reason for the introduction of a bank or some political institutions in between is something, the reason where there are a lot of uncertainty happening, and this is not in the technology era alone. This is something that's been from the very beginning of human civilization. The uncertainty is mostly around three factors. So when you do a transaction or an exchange of an asset or something which has a value uh, in an uh, in different scenarios. Earlier, it was like the barter system where you just send from money. I mean, you just exchange the things between people, and then the trades and everything got introduced, and then it expanded, and uh, there were when there were trade routes, and it became a complex system. There were institutions, formal institutions came into, which actually was there to solve a particular problem. And the problem is around the uncertainty, and the uncertainty is around three topics. And the first one is like not knowing like whom we are dealing with. Any typical nowadays what we usually do is like, suppose like you want to buy something from Amazon. The very first thing that you would do is like you would check the review, you would do the ratings, you would go through the pictures of it, you would try to figure out like whom actually is the the seller, and you would go through like whether that seller is someone who is having a reputation of his own, and you don't want to actually go into trouble by dealing with someone who is having a low reputation, because there are cases where you order something and you are not getting it, or you are getting the faulty one. You don't want to get into all those troubles. So not knowing whom you are dealing with is one of the uncertainty that I explained with this example, but it's there from the very beginning of an exchange of a value. And earlier it was like you have this direct dealing, like you have this direct in-person interaction where you exchange something with someone else. But as this system evolved, as the trade evolved, or like as the whole world evolved, you cannot actually do that. It's not practically sensible to actually have these physical interactions happening. So the next option is like you have to do, or you have to trust that with some help from someone else, and we will get into that later. But the next set of uncertainty is about not having the transparency in the interactions. So in this particular case, we'll also try to go through the same scenario where you are trying to order something from the internet, and um, you would want to make sure that the something you have already like purchased, and you want it to be like you have paid the amount already, and it's actually the order has been changed to a state where you could see that in Amazon that it's actually trying to send from their warehouse, and that's the current status. And you would look again after some time, and you would see that it's actually shipped from the warehouse. And you would also get to know about the courier uh, dealers who actually is coming into picture, and you will get to know this identification number where you can track the progress of this consignment being sent across. And you actually need to have those kind of transparency in your relationships or interactions with someone else. And this is because you don't want to get into an uncertainty in that level. And also the next set of uncertainty is about what if something goes wrong, like what if like if I tracked it, and something I received it, and then I came to know that it's something being tampered with, or it's something that's not into my expectations. So is there any way that I recourse the very thing, like can I get the money back, like can I send it to back and get the money back? So this is something uh, it's all about the other set of uncertainty and another dimension of uncertainty that we have. And in all these cases, uh, the reason why we have the political or the economical institutions, when I say political and economical institutions, it's all about like the political institutions is the state, or maybe like the government bodies we have. And about the economical institutions is around this RBI. In the case of India, like we have these banks and their bank consortium. We have the Visa, Mastercard. Those are kind of dealing with the international transactions. So these are the different institutions that comes into picture, and their whole purpose is about lowering the uncertainty about the transactions, so that we can actually exchange the value uh, without actually worrying about these uncertainties. And they actually acts as the middlemen to facilitate these activities. And the reason why blockchain, the reason I explained all these to you is because this blockchain is providing a radical solution in it, where instead of nowadays thinking about political and economical institutions to remove the uncertainty, what if there is a technological solution that could actually eliminate the uncertainty to a very zero level, without any other middleman or third party coming into the picture? And there are many reasons why. I'm not going into the reasons why we don't need to have a third party like a political or economical institution coming into picture to manage all these uncertainties. There are many reasons for not I mean, favoring that. We don't need such a middleman, and I'm not going in depth into that, but I think you mostly would have got an understanding of what would be happening if there is an institution in place and they have more control over these interactions. And the next thing I would like to know, so this is about the uncertainty, and then now we are introducing blockchain into the picture, where blockchain with this the characteristics that I explained before, which is it's kind of a decentralized solution, and it has a shared ledger in place where it records the transaction history, which is in an immutable way, and all these are the elements that provide this to the blockchain solution. Meaning, you don't need to have a third party or an institution to provide the trust to remove the uncertainty. It's already been embedded to the solution that you have, and the solution will always make sure that you don't have an option to cheat. And uncertainty is all about like having the bad experience in an interaction, right? And blockchain provides us with a technological solution where you don't need a third party or someone else coming into the picture, where you all are actually part of doing what you want to do, and then you don't have to have some information, or don't want to have the control shared to someone else to make sure that you have you experience the you don't experience the uncertainty. So that's where the blockchain comes into picture, and these are the factors like the shared ledger and smart contract functionalities I explained before, and the privacy and the consensus mechanism. All these are the factors in a blockchain that provides us with that level of maturity. And this is the main takeaway that I would want you to get into how the blockchain is solving the problem. And in a typical scenario, I'm just explaining with the Bitcoin example because that's mostly will be the one that you would have heard about. So this is something that I would like to explain with you, like what happens in a typical Bitcoin transaction. And it is about like it's the same way in the same at a user level. It's always in the same way, like yeah, that you used to have a UPI based payment transaction. And it's about like you have a wallet in place, you provide the address of the other person, and you provide the amount, and you just click the send. And whatever happens in the behind the scenes is like it's a bit different from what's happening over here, because you have a set of third parties, like a single company which has a single like they have a motive to actually provide us with this solution. So it's like a single company or an institution over there. In the case of Bitcoin, it's always a decentralized solution. And you will hear about what decentralization is in the next few minutes. But this is what happens in the background, where a decentralized solution is there in Bitcoin, which makes sure that this amount is being transferred and this is reflected in both their accounts in a very decentralized way, where you don't have a central party to control over this. And I'm not going in depth to what's there in it. So we have this public distributed ledger, and it's actually an append-only database. Like it's a database just as a database that Amazon holds, where they track the orders and all. But it's kind of an append-only, meaning like if something bad happens, you don't have the option to remove that record from the database. There is no option as such in blockchain. It's always an append-only there. You don't have that option available, and you will always see that if something has been changed from X to Y and then to Z, you will see that history in place in this ledger. And another thing is around the public key cryptography, because this is something also as a separate concept that's always tagged along with blockchain, and cryptography is something that provides us with this permissioned, or maybe like something that makes sure that it's tamper proof, meaning the data that you send in the data here, maybe in the case of Bitcoin, it's about the transaction of Bitcoin from one person to another, just like the bank transfer. But in the case of other solutions, it may be the transfer of an deed, like a land sale. It can be the knowledge, I mean, it can be the information about from whom the land being transferred ownership to someone else. So all these information, if you want it to be tamper proof, you want someone else, because this is all, the network is about a community. It's about someone just like us with a like a system termed as node that's been connected to the blockchain network. And there are n number of ways that this system will fail, because it's not like we don't, it's like a chaotic situation, just like what if whatever happens in your college where you don't have a class tutor in one period, that would be the situation. Like, you don't have an authority in place, and whatever happens in that time, that's the same situation that happens all the time in blockchain, because there is no someone to actually control what's happening in the network, yet it's actually working in the way it is intended to. And that's actually the beauty of blockchain. And this is all happening because you have a lot of technology components that's backing up this, and it will be like each individual thing will be would not at least would need like 2 to 3 hours to explain it, so I'm not going in depth to that. And this is something that you will have to understand, that it's closely related to the cryptography, and the cryptography is something that makes it tamper proof. Just as I explained before, it's about a predefined contract. And this is also something, once it is defined, like this system is defined to operate in X, Y, Z terms. Meaning, like, if there is a claim happening in that case that explained before about an travel cancellation or something, where if it will have a predefined set of rules, and that rules will not be changeable like on a day-to-day or like a on a case-to-case basis, because you do run the same set of business logic against whatever claims coming in. There is no way to actually uh, do the partial check of the information. Like, you don't have a backdoor into it saying that if this is coming from the boss of like Amazon, you just clear it off. Like, you don't need to go through whatever claims happening. So there is no such mechanism. It's like the same set of verification, and it's the same set of code once written is this predefined one, and that's the one that always will be referred to and verified for whatever claims coming into in that case, for the claim that scenario that I explained. And a similar scenario, it's all about what's happening in other situations. So it's a predefined code that's embedded to, and once it is defined and recorded, where everyone has to agree that this is working in this way, this is to be working this way. And once that's been agreed, no one else actually will be able to modify it, unless it's like a combined um, like a combined consensus, meaning like everyone, if everyone agrees to modify it, then it can be. But if there is no way that someone can modify it on and make the system tampered with. So that's the way the smart contract works. Now we will get into what actually is blockchain philosophy. And this blockchain is all about a decentralized philosophy. And this is something like you all have to understand a bit more, because it's about a trustless setting instead of a trusted third parties coming into picture. That's just explained before. So the reason why the decentralized solutions, the solutions that are built on blockchain, why it's actually getting popular, like every industry, every kind of company over there is getting into the blockchain. It's not because you are actually not like like will not be it's not because like these companies, if they are not onboarded to the blockchain, they will lose their place. It's not because of that. It's because they understood that the blockchain or a decentralized solution providing us a better way of interaction, and this interaction is providing us with a lot more opportunities that's not been there before the blockchain was there. So so the first one is about a trustless setting versus a trusted third party, meaning like you don't have to have a trusted third party in place. It's all about a collaboration happening without a trusted party. And the other one is like it's all open source and collaborative. The typical examples I would try to highlight over here is like most of the projects that are built in blockchain, they all are open source, and the blockchain, not the solutions alone, but the blockchain frameworks, because there are a lot of frameworks over there like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, whatever you can say, and there are also permissioned blockchain solutions like where I mostly work on. That's the Hyperledger, Fabric, R3, Corda. These are many permissioned solutions, and I haven't explained this difference between a permissioned and a public blockchain, but that's a different topic altogether. But there are different. The point is like there are different uh, blockchain frameworks over there, and almost all these are open sourced, and it runs by the community. Like they want if the majority of the community wants to have these functionalities, or the way they want the blockchain solutions to work in a particular way, they can actually make it happen, because it's not like a centrally owned by a particular person or like a company where they define what you want the application should look like or how this framework should look like. That's not the case. And that's very different from where we all had these private and patented solutions. And the companies are also adopting to the open source way of working, because everyone now understands that the better way to progress further is always having an open collaborative approach. And that's the mindset that blockchain as a decentralized philosophy brought in. And also things around identity and the ownership of the identity and things like that are also the reasons why blockchain is kind of considered as a decentralized solutions are providing a better place than whatever we have already. And now I would like to actually go in depth into one last topic that I want to discuss, and this is about like the skill sets. So you would like to know that the blockchain is not alone about technology, because I explained that it has a lot of other facets to it. So you can understand a lot about what blockchain is, and you can choose a lot of fields in blockchain, and this is mostly you could say that almost all the industry is actually getting into blockchain space. So this is not something like specifically for technical people. Like it's not always for computer science graduates to grab about. It's always like there are lot of opportunities for everyone in this space, because a lot of industries and companies are moving towards blockchain. And if you ask about the different programming languages, this is just a rough estimate, and you would see that almost all the languages are there supportive of different blockchain frameworks over there. So it's not like you have to learn a new language or like a technology to understand more on the blockchain. So this is something like something that you have some preferences over there. You can go with that particular programming language. And the last topic is about getting onboarded into the blockchain. And I don't want to spend time to these, but uh, I can share these with you. So these are like different gamified versions of programming skill sets, where if you want to actually embrace like want to have a career in blockchain in a technical level, a lot of places are there, and this can be shared across. So I can also provide some guidance on how you want it to be. But there are a lot of Medium articles and a lot of these gamification based platforms where you can actually have an interactive way of understanding blockchains and how we can contribute to the blockchain space. Uh, and with that, I'm actually winding up. Um, Thank you, and I'm open for questions. I think we are overshot by a couple of minutes, but yeah.
Thank you, sir. It has been a lovely session and a very informative session. Now, we have a small interactive session with Joseph Taradan, sir. Our audience can convey their doubts either by using chat box or using the raise hand.
Yeah, probably I can actually give some more insights to it. Maybe you would have came to this session to understand like the technical things of blockchain, what it is. But in fact, I've done a lot of sessions in blockchain that handles about that covers the technical part of it. But I think uh, that's not very fruitful in most of the times, because you cannot actually understand blockchain in a 1 hour session. Of course, you will not get anything out of it, but I think this philosophy or the thoughts about the very fundamental thing, not just about blockchain, but what it is and how it's actually is having this importance that you see in this world, that could actually is something that I always thought that I could actually share back with the community, so that they have this motive to understand more, because this is a very complex technology. I could say that with even with 6 months of experience in it, I could not actually do much out of it, because over the past few years I could actually see that it's very something. It's not. It's combination of very technologies together, and if you are not good at most of the fundamental things, you would not actually get, you will fail in between, because this is something that is very easy to get rid of, because I've come across many of my colleagues have actually left from this, because it's a bit tricky to understand in a bit. But the more that you understand the fundamental of it, like what it is and how actually it's trying to solve, what problem it's trying to solve, that's actually the thing that you would have in your mind, that would keep your journey further. So that's the main motive of why I chose it in a different philosophical and like in a very different way than a pure technical thing.
Those who have any doubts can ask now. Sir, we have a question from Samuel Lobins. Uh, whether
Yeah.
any job opportunities regarding the blockchain.
Yeah, I just explained that it's like a very broad place, and uh, if you are having some kind of an talent with you, you would find a job in blockchain, because that's the pace that this space is growing. And it cannot it won't be in a blockchain technical, something that I do, architecting different blockchain solutions. It may not be in that space. If you are not interested to be like a blockchain architect, there are some other elements to it, like the financial analyst role, thinking or understanding blockchain from a business point of view is something that you are rarely seeing talents in that space, because this is not about technology alone. You want to understand what problem it's trying to solve, and have to have a understanding of both these places, how they merge together, how they interact, like what exactly is the problem it's trying to solve. So all these spaces are very new, and we are not getting enough space. So it's like something that you always can go with. And I just want to highlight here is like you choose the particular part, or where you want you to be, like where you want to focus yourselves because of your passion, or like because of your interest. Then you would definitely see a lot of places or jobs in this space. And I can share that presentation with you, where there are places where you can search for blockchain specific opportunities market right now. Even those who have like 3 months of experience technically in blockchain, they are even valued, because there is no much resource availability in this space. And even we are actually looking for good programmers. And in a technical space alone, like if you're considering like a blockchain developer role, then the main skill set is not about like blockchain. The main thing is about this understanding that I just explained before, which is kind of not like available to everyone, because everyone thinks this as blockchain as something kind of a Java, or like a language, or kind of a framework, just as whatever it is. But there are more in depth to it, and this is something that no one really cares or understands, where most of us will not be able to fit into this job.
Thank you, Samuel Loggins. Next question from Joseph Sam. Challenges faced by the blockchain technology.
The main challenges in adopting blockchain technology, one mostly is around the same technical complexity that it has. And the other thing is like the kind of, as I said before, it's kind of like having an impact to the institutions, the political and the financial institutions. And so as we speak, like they are all looking into like it as something that could replace them. But this also something, because they are in the powers, like these institutions define how, and that's also kind of having an impact. But also it's kind of like they are also having their maturity levels increasing year by year, and they are also trying to adopt this. You would see like we have a lot of programs even by the Kerala government and Indian government as well, where they are adopting the blockchain, because they could see that it's not like something that like one particular thing like Bitcoin is trying to like make them all irrelevant. That's not the one thing that blockchain is capable of. It's like blockchain is able to introduce a lot of other solutions that they are also trying to understand. So there is always like this knowledge gap with everyone, that makes it difficult to embrace this technology in different industries and places. But that's all kind of getting solved.
Thank you, Joseph Sam. Gautam Krishna has raised a hand. He can hit the microphone and ask the question. Then next question from Samuel Loggins. Uh, did we require any prerequisite knowledge while handling the blockchain?
Prerequisite knowledge in the sense like um, we are talking about like getting into this space, like a developer to acquire to have a career in blockchain. The main thing as a developer that you would have before understanding blockchain is like should have pretty good confidence in the programming level, because um, if you have the fundamentals very very the very base is very strong, then you don't have to actually worry about most of the things. But even you even if you have some gaps here and there, but then uh, the when you actually try to get into this blockchain space to understand more, you would have to clear those gaps and like know more about these technological facts like the cryptography and the very fundamental programming skills of every programming, every other technology. It remains the same in the case of blockchain as well, but it's kind of a bit more advanced than normal other fields. That's the only thing here. So you should have very fundamental things, fundamental understanding, and that's the main thing that you would have to improve your skill set to actually have a faster get into this space.
Thank you, Samuel Lobby. Next question from Alina John. Which are the platforms from where we can learn blockchain?
I can actually share some platforms in this thread itself. Probably, yeah. So these are most of the things that you can start with. I've provided open source with GitHub, with just GitHub, because it's something that uh, I said before, like it's all open source, and if you just search for a couple of projects in GitHub, you could see their programming, how they have writing things and all. So, but if you want to actually have some guided way of understanding blockchain, I would not ask you to, I mean, prefer you to go to any particular um, courses like or some skill improvement I mean these courses that different people or institutions offer. It's not like mandatory to only get some understanding only if you don't, I mean if you go into such sessions. It's not always like that, because there are many things in the open source where you can use these as the starting point, but then you would always understand a lot of other um, opportunities or places where you can get more information about blockchain. That Airtable link that I've shared, it has tons of like links in it where you could understand more like different aspects of different ways of building blockchain based solutions.
Thank you, sir. Now we have almost reached the end. So to formally thank and mention our gratitude to everyone, I call upon Andresa Prince, IPL coordinator.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Andresa. It is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks. Firstly, on behalf of IEBC, I extend my deep gratitude to Mr. Joseph Kerrigan, the resource person of the day, for sparing your time to share your knowledge on blockchain, for enlightening all of us with your words, and for showing us a new path. I'm pretty sure that each and every one present in this meet had a fruitful session. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Andresa.
Next, I would like to express my deep gratitude to our Executive Director, Reverend Father John Palekara, our Joint Director, Reverend Father Joy Piperly, Principal, Dr. Sajeev John, Vice Principal, Dr. V.D. John, our Nodal Officer, Rahul Manohar Sir, the Student Executive Committee, and all other faculty for the constant support and motivation. Opportunity to thank our Department of Computer Science as well as the staff in charge, Nikhil Sir, for connecting us to our resource person. Fortunate to thank the dedicated student members who worked so hard to make this event a grand success. Friends, a very friendly and lovable thanks to you all for actually being a part of this session and for making this wonderful. Everyone, I conclude my words. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andresa. Dear participants, the links for the feedback form is provided in the chat box. Kindly make sure you have filled these forms with right details required. The following will be used for issuing the certificates. So we are finally winding up today's section. So once again, thanking all for joining. I'm concluding. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.